So here we start. I believe that all have come into this breakout room, and this breakout room is social science 2. Now, before I start, I I would like to introduce Aarti ma'am, who's in the team, and where we will be discussing about social studies, embedding social studies, social justice into our social studies subject matter. And then we have Aarti ma'am, who is in my team, and she is from Chandigarh, India. And she's a psychology teacher, and she's dealing with class 11 and 12 standard. And she also goes down to 6th standard teaching social science. And at the same time, I have over here Sayantani ma'am. Sayantani ma'am comes from Bobazar, Kolkata. Now, Aarti ma'am comes from the north part of India, and Sayantani ma'am comes from the northeast part of India, Kolkata. And Sayantani ma'am deals with English as a English teacher, and as well as she also teaches history. And I myself is Andrew, and I'm on the western part of India in Rajasthan in one of the hill station. And then I teach geography and history. So without wasting time, what we are going to do is we saw what Grace ma'am and Neha ma'am introduced to us the sustainable development goals. There were 17 goals, and at the same time the elements of social justice education. There were 6 elements, and how these elements of sustainable development goals as well as the elements of social justice education are embedded in the our curriculum, our in our lessons. So we are going to cite some of the examples, and our take for today is Sayantani ma'am. So right away, I would like Sayantani ma'am to start with by sharing the screen, and I would invite Aarti ma'am to start with the lesson and the examples. Uh, yes, embedding justice in social science. Okay, so right
Good
away we
evening,
are
sir.
that.
Yeah.
Aarti
Thank you
ma'am,
so much, sir. Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Good evening, everyone. So, ma'am, can I have the first slide? Sayantani, ma'am, can I have the first slide? Yeah, embedding justice into the curriculum. So, the first example is from grade 6, subject is geography, the 5 major domains of the earth. So, the subtopic is how to reduce global warming. And for this, a small activity was given to children to link it with the SDGs. So while doing that, the children came up with the different SDGs they linked up. SDG 13, that is the climate action. So where urgent action that is required to combat climate change and its impact, reducing the greenhouse gas emissions, promoting sustainable practices. SDG 7, affordable and clean energy, the transition to clean and renewable resources of energy, and as well as responsible consumption. Goal 11, sustainable cities and communities. So children had to give the SDG, link it to an SDG, and also give a supporting example for that. Sustainable cities and communities, reducing the greenhouse gas emissions, sustainable urban planning and development, energy efficient buildings, more usage of public transportation. An interesting linkage was made by few students, that was to goal 1 and goal 2, that is no poverty and zero hunger, there where they were addressing the vulnerabilities that can be aggravated by global warming, such as food and water security. So in the month of August, in the northern region, we had continuous rainfalls, and a child came up with an example. The domestic help couldn't come to their home for 4 days. So the reason was because she was living in such a locality where the water logging was there, and the people couldn't move out of their home. So of that, the rains that came. So how we can reach out to the marginalized? The children came up with those examples. The learning outcome was students learned about the concept of global warming, steps to reduce it, and as well as their responsibility towards the environment. They were also encouraged to make some suggestive changes, simple changes like more usage of carpooling, public transport, switching off the electricity buttons when they are not in use, switching over to jute or the cloth bags instead of the plastic bags. And apart from that, from these suggestive changes, each student brought in a potted plant that was to be kept on the class shelf as well as in the outside corridors. And on rotation, children got the responsibility of watering as well as maintaining those plants. The second example, ma'am, the next slide. The second example is from grade 8. So we have the disaster management drills in our schools. That is to train children to take the what immediate safety plan that they can have, safety action that they can take up in case an earthquake is there. So while disasters themselves, they may not discriminate, they are a product of human decision making that often disproportionately impacts the low income communities. The degree of vulnerability, it changes depending on the economic, social and physical conditions. So therefore, the question of whose life get priority before, during and after a disaster is critically important. So on the basis of this statement, the students, they were given a project. So they had to plan a project on an A4 size sheet on the mitigation process of disaster management, making a special mention of the vulnerable groups. So where we are again sensitizing the students toward the marginalized and the vulnerable groups. The next slide, ma'am. So next example from the subject psychology. So the chapter is psychological disorders. The age group is 17 to 18, the grade 12 students. So while explaining the concept of abnormality and the various psychological disorders, the stigma, the discrimination, and the social inequalities that are linked with these mental health issues, they were highlighted. So again, when we link up this concept with the SDGs, SDG 3, that is equal access to the mental health care services. SDG 4, the right to quality education. So in educational settings also, these children, children suffering from various mental illnesses, they have the rights and we need to protect them there. SDG 10, people with psychological disorders, they face stigma and inequalities. Reducing these inequalities is important for inclusivity and well-being of children. SDG 16, so again, it's very important, peace, justice, and strong institutions. Diverting the individuals with mental health issues from the criminal justice system to appropriate healthcare services is again an important aspect. SDG 17, that is partnership for the goals. Collaboration among the government, healthcare organizations, and civil society. It's very important, it's crucial to provide comprehensive mental health support to the people suffering from psychological disorders. So the learning outcome was understanding the psychological disorders as well as the abnormality concept, along with why we need to address these, not only for the well-being, but to reduce the inequalities, fostering inclusive and sustainable societies. So for this, field visits are also planned to mental health institutions, and as well as case studies are being shared. So where people who are facing these discrimination, so how we can overcome them. So that was done with this topic. Thank you so much.
Uh, Thank you, ma'am Aarti. And then now we will go straight away to make it short also, little bit short also, because we are running out of time at the end. definitely we will give each and every individual, whoever, if the time permits, will give you to throw your reaction also. So now we will go straight away to Sayanti ma'am, who will be sharing on nature of the state.
Hello everyone, I'm Sayantani. Now today's topic of discussion is nature of the state. Now, according to political science, state means a community or society politically organized under one independent government within a definite territory and subject to no outside control. Right? As Andrew sir initially introduced the three presenters here, so you know that I come from the northeast part, he comes from the west part, and ma'am comes from the northern part of India. We three speak different languages. We have different culture. Now, India is this, it's a country of diversified culture, diversified geographical location. So the nature of the state, so first what we have to do is we have to introduce the students to all these terms. These are the characteristics of our country, India. It's a sovereign country, it's a socialist country, secular country, it's a democratic country, and a republic country. As you can see, the definitions are also written. So we are not going to talk about or discuss about these terms. We are all aware of these terms, okay? So what we did in our class is we did a class activity, right? Because learning is more about experience. It's just not a mere acquisition of data, but it's an experience. So in our class activity, so since India has people of different culture, religion, and community, so sometimes people make prejudiced comment in our presence. Apart from we celebrate our diversified culture, it also comes with a lot of issues, a lot of problems, social problems, right? So sometimes people make prejudiced comments in our presence. So what we did is we divided the children or the class into groups, and each group discusses what they could do in one of the following situations. For example, a friend teases a classmate because he is poor, right? As you can see on your screen, the list of 7 sustainable development goals, the SDGs, are there. So when a friend teases a classmate because he is poor, we can connect this issue with SDG number 1, that is no poverty, right? Again, in another situation, some boys make remarks about girls not being able to play games as well as them. So again, this is an issue of gender inequality, gender discrimination, right? So what we have to do is we have to encourage students to talk about it. So in order to, uh, you know, uh, imbibe this SDG, the knowledge of SDG, to make the students aware of these goals, we can have a discussion. We can, the topic, the issues raised by out of this discussion, we can put it on PPT, we can make chart, and also we can have a news desk. We can appoint students to have a news desk, and they can accumulate newses all over India and outside India, and we can continue with the discussion. So I think this is how we can make them aware of their surroundings, make them aware of the SDG goals, and that's how we can imbibe the sustainable development goals, their knowledge among the students. Over to Anju sir.
Thank you, Shayantini ma'am. And then I will go with a very short description on my topics. Can we go to the next slide? Energy and power. Now, this topic is for class grades 7, and the age group is between 12 to 13 years. And these are very common topics like sources of energy. And many of us, if you ever ask, the present generation kids are so smart that they will give you the renewable, name some of the renewable energy and non-renewable energy. If you ever ask any students and all, they will definitely give immediately the names. Even if you go to fifth standard, if you go to grade lower grades also, they will give. But linking the SDGs, that is the agreed in 2015, and until we need to work till 230. This, the target is 2030. Now over here, straight away coming to the real life stories and all, and many of us, all of us are teachers here, and then if you notice, many of us, with awareness or without, in our subconscious mind, we are introducing in one way or the other introducing to the elements of social justice and SDGs, sustainable development goals. But in order to make it more vibrant towards students, we can take real life examples. Now, when we come to hydropower, solar power, wind power, these are all renewables energies. But over here, the world is still sticking to coal. The world is still sticking to petroleum. And then if I have to give my students the example, then I will take a coal incident. Now, we have a place called Jharia in India, where the coal mine is there. And at the same time, we have a coal mine area in the northeastern state of India. And then we are giving the students, this catches the elements of social justice on awareness raising. How coal extraction is leading towards environmental disaster and as well as health disaster towards some of the communities in India. Now, when it comes to Jharia, the whole land where coal is being extracted, the land is being submerged. Uh, at the same time, in the northeast India, because of the coal extraction, those are called rat holes, and coal extraction, it is polluting the water, and through pollution of water, all the pregnant women in that locality who had drank that water and used that water for domestic purpose and all, during the time of birth, uh, all the children that were born were either mentally retarded or physically retarded. Those were the outcome, those were the studies. And then we show them the real life story of how coal extraction is causing health hazards, environmental degradation and all. And if you go to YouTube also, then you can give the link, you can show the videos. And that's how you are bringing little bit of awareness. And this raising awareness is the element of social justice education. And that's what we are trying to do. Is sometimes now, Sayanti ma'am gave the example, and even Aarti ma'am gave the example. Sometimes is an action plan, sometimes is a social action, sometimes you are raising voice in the public, sometimes you are showing respect to others, sometimes you are looking into self love, and you're creating knowledge among others. So different subject matters are creating and bringing about sustainable development goals, and at the same time, the elements of social justice that is being set up. So if you notice that we are trying to bring awareness among children, we are trying to work out with projects. I know very much aware that many countries and many institutions practice going for excursion, which are very much practiced over the years. So over here is like more of a making SDGs, sustainable development goals, and elements of social justice more vibrant among our present generation students. So similarly, if I talk about agriculture, could you please go to the next slide, Sayantani ma'am? Can you go more down? Next slide. Yes, if you look at the agriculture sector out here, India is the second largest exporter of rice. And then when it comes to the importance of and problems of agriculture in India, if I'm taking my own country, now we are the largest exporter of rice, second largest or the third largest, whatever the case may be according to the research and all. But over here, what we are bringing out here is today India is producing rice at a massive extent with the introduction of green revolution and all. But directly going to the problem, if you look into India, if you see this map out here, if you see this map, India map out here, because of the rice production and wheat production, India is very much losing groundwater. India is a country, is a monsoon, tropical monsoon type of climate we have, and we get about 4 months of rain. And in some states in India, we get 6 months of rain. But yet we are running short of water, because when it comes to India, we are using groundwater as well as surface water at a massive level, because uh, India is consuming so much of water in growing rice and wheat. But at the same time, when you talk about another, like the United Nations Declaration, and India has given the year, International Year for Millets. So it is all over the world focusing on millets. Will this our local name is Jawar, Bajra, Ragi, Foxtail, Little Millets, and all we call it. This has the positive impact, like concentrating, diverting the minds of the farmers, as well as bringing awareness in the students that we need to shift from growing rice and wheat to bajra, or to millets, or whatever we call this crop. And then uh, changing the mindset of the students and changing the mindset of the farmers in India will bring about some of the elements of social justice, and at the same time sustainable development goals. Because as we see, the content is, the subtopic is problems of agriculture in India. So how we are embedding the social justice elements into the minds, young minds, and at the same time bringing about awareness. So these are the ways, like if you notice Aarti ma'am, if you notice Sayantani ma'am brought about examples of like no poverty, good health and well-being, gender equality, and then climate action. We talk about this, how we are embedding or including the awareness of social justice elements, as well as sustainable development goals. So I would like to not go into every detail of the chapters, the subjects, but I hope I'm very much aware every teacher out here who is present here, every individual present here is uh, embedding certain kind of social justice elements, as well as sustainable development goals. Now we have time, for about 5 minutes we have. So any question, any queries, you can raise your hand and you can talk about and throw your reflection on what we discussed upon before we go back to the main room. Any comments? Shantini ma'am, we can unmute anybody. You can raise your hand and then share your thought over what we have discussed.
So you are the co-host, so you have to unmute them.
Yeah, definitely I will unmute anybody who has raised hand. Just check. So far I see no one. Okay, we have Ivona, am I right? You can unmute
Thank
yourself.
You. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for the incredible presentation. Both presentations were very, very informative. But I just wanted to understand, in your Indian school curriculum, is this is it part of the national curriculum, or have you infused this in your own schools? We have got quite draconian and a bureaucratic Department of Education in South Africa, and we follow a very, very prescriptive curriculum, whereby, and after COVID with curriculum recovery, we've got standard plans that we have to roll out, and key performance indicators that have to be met. So I just wanted to understand, is this done through your National Department of Education, or is this something that your schools have infused informally, or is it a formal curriculum that would be assessed, that would be that there'd be some reporting on? I just would like to get some sense of this, please.
Yeah, thank you so much for your sharing. This is very much informal because when it comes to Edmund Rice schools, we have taken into consideration all the elements of sustainable development goals and all, and then as well as the social justice elements, education elements. But when it comes to, we are very soon, the government is planning to bring about a new education policy, and then which is known as NEP, National Education Policy. And definitely in that, the government is trying to implement all this part of the Sustainable Development Goal. And then they were made aware in the G20 meeting also recently that happened in India. But as your question that rises, I believe that it is not a formal uh, uh, way of imparting our social justice, sustainable development goals into the national in our school curriculum. Am I
So
answering?
yeah, no, you have. So it's cross curriculum,
Yes.
and you would form your teachers to
Yes.
infuse it into their subjects.
Yes. Now
Okay.
if you notice, we have Neha and Grace who introduced the whole session to us. Now, Neha and Grace are the coordinators who's dealing with different schools, and there are restrictions, there are principals who would like to go in their own way and all. So we would like to, we try our best. As you said, we are trying to embed by ourselves. We have the syllabus separately, but at the same time, we are trying to include these elements of social justice into our subject.
Thank you very much for that response.
Thank you very much for your sharing and for your query also. And I would like to thank everyone who has attended this breakout room. And then I think we'll have to leave the breakout room. And nice meeting you all, and all the
Thank
best.
you, everyone.
Thank you, Sayantani
everyone.
ma'am and Aarti ma'am also for
Thank
your,
you, sir.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
ma'am.
Thank you,
cooperation.
everyone.